All right, welcome to another episode of the Tap and Go podcast. Today we have someone who I admire both on and off the field, Mr. Billy Meakes. How you doing, Billy?
Very well, thank you, mate. How you guys going?
Yeah, doing all right, thanks. It's sort of that awkward time now, isn't it, between like Christmas and New Year's, where you don't know if it's like Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, but for sure, that
Yeah,
was all right. So
I
we
think
got
both are play on.
so we've got a few things we want to talk about today, and sort of like the first one I thought would be interesting was sort of your time with the Rebels. What was it like sort of playing in like arguably the sporting capital of Australia?
Yeah, cool. Great place to start. I've got some awesome memories at the Rebels. Obviously spent 3 seasons there with some pretty amazing people. And, firstly, probably what you touched on is the sporting capital of Australia, without a doubt. Got the Australian Open tennis there. We've got the Grand Prix there. Obviously, AFL is the national sport. And, that's where most of it's played. And then obviously we've got the rugby league, the football, and then the rugby union as well. So it's an absolute sporting hub. Where we trained as the Rebels, we were sort of alongside the Melbourne Storm, who obviously are a very successful rugby league team. And then we had Collingwood and Richmond sort of bordering us, along with the football team. So we all trained out of the same area with some amazing facilities. And then you sort of just feed off the energy. And then, as I said, I obviously got to play with some pretty incredible players at the Rebels. And yeah, it's a place I'll hold, close to my heart.
Yeah, so you touched on like the playing with the Storm there. Did you ever sort of train with them? Because I know there are articles of like the Reds and Broncos pairing up in preseason. Was that ever a thing at the Rebels?
I think they've done it in the past with the Rebels and the Storm. Whilst I was there, we didn't do it. We obviously, I personally would spend a bit of time because we use the same pitch. And we go on and off the pitch sort of alternate times. So I'd always spend like 10 or 15 minutes at the back end of our session watching them train and warm up and stuff. And, there's some guys that are generational players that were playing at the time that I was there, like Billy Slater and Cam Smith. And, those 2 legends of the game, just to watch the way they operate, you can take a lot from that. And even just a fanboy out and just sit there and watch them do their thing. So very fortunate to sort of rub shoulders with those guys every now and then.
Yeah, sure. Like Cam Smith, very interested to see what he's going to do next with just winning the competition. So you mentioned about playing with like lots of, I think in my opinion, the Rebels arguably have like the best backline out of all the Super Rugby AU teams. Sort of got the likes of yourself, but also like Reece Hodge, Matt Tamua, Dane Hallett-Petty, Marika. What was it like to train? Like training must have been incredibly special.
Yeah, training is really special. It's definitely probably the most talented group of backs I've had the pleasure of playing with. When I first got down there, we had Will Gannier and Quadey inside me. And then, I had Frank Lamani, the Fijian 9, Matt Tamura, as he said, Marika, Dane, Hodgie, Kells. Like there was you just name it. We had pretty much a full Wallaby backline. So training was extremely competitive. We drove a culture that was always just pushing each other to get better. And whilst we were extremely competitive on the pitch, we had a really good friendship off the pitch as well. And we were a really tight group. And I've got a lot of love for those guys and definitely learned a lot with my time spent with them.
Yeah. So you just touched on, so you played outside Quade Cooper in 2019 and Matt Tamura in 2028. Was there did you notice, like, obviously there's a big difference, but did you prefer one style of play?
I don't think I preferred one. I think I learned a lot from both. They're both very different players. Quade is quite a unique player in the sense that he sees the game in a way that not many other people do, or no one else that I've ever played with does. So it's probably just about adapting and playing to him because he is such a world-class player when he's on. And, he taught me a lot of things about playing flatter at the line, putting your skill under pressure, and just backing your skills. Whereas Matty taught me a lot about the tactical side of the game and the kicking side of the game. He's a really good game manager. He's obviously been around the block, played over here for a while, international for a while. So he was a really good in terms of growing my game outside my game that I already had. But both, very fortunate to play outside both. They're both very talented players and, I've played however many times for their countries. So, it's pretty lucky.
Yeah, so like Quade obviously is known for his flair and everything, and just like watching that 2019 season, it looked like you guys like clicked quite well. How did you sort of align yourself? Was it something that the coaches did or yourselves or?
I think it's one of those things, like when you hear someone signed at the club that you're already at, and it's someone like Quade, someone who I've met a couple of times at Wallabies camps, but not really spent much time with. You sort of hope that you're going to get along. And, you know, me personally, I was very excited to play with him because I know how good he can be. But he actually approached me during preseason, probably first or second week, because we had quite a long preseason. And he approached me and he said, look, it's more than likely that you and I are going to be playing 10 and 12. You know, let's take this all the way to the Wallabies. Let's be the best 10 and 12 in the country. And anything you need, let me know. And anything I need, I'll be sure to let you know. And he's, you know, he pushes the guys really hard. He's sort of a dickhead on the field, like in the best way possible. But yeah, we just clicked off the field more than anything. Spent a lot of time together off the field. We live quite close to each other. We go out for dinner, go out for a few beers, go for coffee, stuff like that. So yeah, I think first and foremost, just getting together off the field definitely showed on the field. And as I said before, like he's just the kind of guy that will sit you down and tell you to back yourself, which, as simple as it sounds, coming from someone like that, is very powerful. So yeah, we had a really good click, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Quadey.
Yeah, I mean, I just got one memory of like the try where he did the little grubber in the left, and you sort of skipped around and scored in the corner, which is always a good one.
Special.
So yeah, with Matt Tamur, like we obviously saw in the Wallabies when he got injured in the first couple of games, it sort of shifted the back line and like the mentality in defense. And you spoke about how the game management of him was really sort of on point. I'm sure it was sort of like, what does he bring to the team in terms of like as a player? Yeah,
so he's got an extremely calm head. Again, he's very good at taking control of the team. You know, I feel like in most teams there's a good spread of leadership around game calling and game management between maybe a couple of forwards, the locks that are calling the line out, and the 9 and 10 who are calling the back stuff. But Pup's really good at just taking onus on all of it. He takes care of most of the calling for the team. And then he drives a lot of our meetings. He's big on player-led meetings. I think that's something he picked up a lot over here.
He spoke out with Hooper, didn't he? Sorry, yeah, he spoke out with Hooper, and so he's very like player-led.
He's very player-led, and you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he'll sort of slide into that post-rugby, player welfare and sort of general management kind of stuff. But again, yeah, he sort of came in, and right from the off, he was a very clear voice in our meetings. He was big on having the coaches run the Monday, Tuesday, and then basically take a back seat for the rest of the week, so he could drive what he wanted to drive. And yeah, I'd probably just say overall, just an amazing leader with such a good knowledge of the game.
Yeah, just a general, isn't he? So I want to move on to sort of your transition to London Irish, where you're at now. Sort of, it's your second time playing in the UK. How was the transition? Was it easier this time, or
yeah, the first time was easier.
Yeah,
first time was pretty random, but I mean we can talk about that after. But coming back was definitely easier. Obviously, quite familiar with the Premiership. I know all the teams, which I didn't when I first got here. I know a lot of the players now, which I didn't when I first got here. And it's obviously quite comforting having a fair few Australians that I know quite well in the team. Australians that are coaching always make the transition a bit easier. So yeah, it's definitely been a lot easier than it was the first time, but it still has its challenges. And obviously with everything going on right now, it's not very normal. So yeah.
So obviously when you signed London Irish, you knew it was a short contract. So I think it was to the end of January, wasn't it? Does that affect the way you approach the game, how you're going to play?
No,
trying to get it from the outset.
No, I don't think so. I think I was really grateful for this opportunity because initially when I finished up with the Rebels, I was meant to have 5 months off, so I was sort of just going to chill out, do my own training in Sydney, and just relax. So if you had told me at the start of the year I was going to finish and then end up playing in the Premiership again, like, you know, I wouldn't have believed you. But for whatever reason, an opportunity came up, and you know, I was on a plane genuinely within 7 days. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I don't think it changes the way I wanted to play. I was just so excited to get here. I love sort of starting to creep into an older player type role as I get a little bit more experienced, and having played here before and now coming back again, seeing players that were in my position when I first was here, it's really cool to be able to work with developing them. And then for me, obviously, just trying to be the best player I can for London Irish is really cool. And it's been great to get back out there, to be honest.
And what's the difference between playing 12 in Australia and England? Like Australia, you had that sort of like second ball player, sort of like a real get your hands with the ball and distribute kind of style. Would you say, because England has less of a focus on that at the 12, isn't it? Are you trying to adapt more or still have that characteristic?
Yeah, I think when I was at Gloucester, we probably had more of a focus. I actually played more 13 there, but in general, it was probably more around crash ball, gain line. You can probably see from photos of me back then. I was about 103 kilos, and I'm 92 kilos now. So, I think ball playing, I'm pretty fortunate that at London Irish, we actually do have an onus on having two ball players. So it fits quite well for me, and I haven't had to change too much. So it's come quite naturally. But yeah, I'd probably say the majority of teams in the Premiership have got a gain line type 12, which sort of suits the style of play over here, to be honest, depending on how you want to play. But, just looking at the GPS meters from the last 4 or 5 games here compared to the Rebel season this year, it's significantly lower and less intense. But that's not to say the game's less intense. It's just far more physical, a little bit slower. But it probably you can operate at a heavier weight to allow you to get gain line, be a little bit more physical and dominant in that area. So that's probably a couple of things that you can adjust to. But if you're comfortable with your weight and you can still make your tackles, I suppose, and be dominant in the physical area, then I suppose you can get away with it. But as I said, lucky that London Irish sort of look at 2 ball players and play both sides of the ball. So that's been good for me.
Is that like an Australian influence thing, like you said, with the players and the coaches as well?
Yeah, I think it probably is. I think teams in the Prem that have had sort of influence from Australian and Kiwi coaches, you can get the sense that they like to throw the ball around a little bit more and play a little bit more. And you can see that influence straight away when you get a coach from the Southern Hemisphere. So I suppose that's just the way we're used to playing it back home. So when coaches come over, it's only natural to try and do the same here.
And you recently had your game against Bath cancelled, didn't you, due to the virus? What was that sort of like as a player? It must be quite frustrating to sort of hear the news that it has to be cancelled. Yeah,
very frustrating. It's I feel like nothing this year didn't shock us now. It was almost just like it got announced. We came in for training. It obviously got announced that one of the players had tested positive after the game, which obviously means that there was a couple of boys in the game that were close contacts. So, I'm pretty sure there's a rule in the Premiership that if you have 2 or 3 more close contacts that you have to forfeit from the game, which is, fair enough for safety reasons. But yeah, as I said, it's just another curveball that 2020 is throwing. It's been a pretty crazy year. I was in lockdown in Melbourne for 2 months, then Sydney for 3 months, back in Melbourne for a month. Like, I think this is my 7th month in lockdown. So I'm just chasing him at the moment. But yeah, it was obviously very disappointing. That was a game that I definitely penciled in. I was pretty keen for. Bath at the Rec is always a special game with fans or no fans. So to have that one wiped out, it was obviously pretty disappointing.
Well, you mentioned the Rec, so you got your new stadium as well, London Irish in West London. What's that like, sort of playing there? Because I guess no one's done it before.
Mate, it is so good. It is so good. I've had so many people ask me about it. It's hands down like one of the best stadiums I've ever played in. The facilities are world class. It's obviously Brentford Football Club. They use it as well. So the deck's obviously like carpet. It's fantastic. The stadium, I'm not sure what the capacity is, but it's probably similar to like a King's Home. It's quite small, whereby if you fill it out, it's going to be extremely loud. We had one game, there was 2,000 fans there, and it was rocking. So I feel very lucky to play there, and every time I roll in, I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. So I think it's great for the club to be back in London as well. You can see there's a bit of hype starting to build, albeit with COVID, but I think rolling into the new year, if we can start allowing fans and get the ball rolling with some good performances, there's no reason why it can't become a bit of a fortress.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think so you mentioned how the stadium's a bit smaller and sort of when it packs out, it's really booming compared to like the Australian stadiums where they're much bigger, but it's harder to pack out. Do you think sort of there's one, as a player, do you prefer one over the other, or?
Oh, definitely smaller with a bigger feeling crowd.
Is that a general is that a commonly thought thing as a player, or is it just? I
don't know. I'd like to think so. Like, those smaller stadiums when they're full, nothing beats it, because this day and age with rugby at the moment, especially in Australia, unfortunately, it's quite hard to pack out a stadium any bigger than sort of 12,000 unless you're playing at test level. So, obviously all the Super Rugby teams, their stadiums are quite big. So it's always going to be tough to fill them. And whilst it's still loud, it's quite noticeable that it's not full. So yeah, I think playing here, like that's one of my favourite things about the Premiership is the home grounds and the crowds. It's unrivaled anywhere that I've ever been.
And I guess speaking of like new stadiums and new opportunities, your next one obviously to move to LA, the Giltinis. What brought you over to America and sort of a new team? It's like,
it's pretty random. I mean, if you look at it from the out, it's pretty random. But it's been something that's sort of chipping away in the background for a while, and it's an opportunity that came to me probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I feel like as a rugby player, if you take everything away, if you could go to America and play rugby, it seems like a pretty sweet deal. And it's probably something that everyone as a professional rugby player has thought about at one point. And now they've starting to really turn the screws in America. We've obviously got a few new teams. They're starting to attract a lot bigger name players. There's a little bit more money involved over there. Their rugby programs are starting to really thrive. And I think it's actually just going to be a really good opportunity. I probably don't think it's where it needs to be right now in terms of the level that it's at, but give it a couple of years. I've got every belief that it's going to be right up there. So it was probably just an opportunity and the timing that I couldn't turn down right now. My partner's going to be able to move out there as well. And it's just one of those things that it's just really exciting to be a part of a team from the very start. We've got a few mates going over as well, and we're really looking forward to actually being super successful, running a really tight ship, and being as professional as we can. So I mean, it's a number of reasons, as random as it is, but I'm really looking forward to it.
And there's a number of
Right, so obviously there are the likes of Chris Robshaw, yourself, are now moving out to America. Do you think it has the potential to keep attracting these big names and potentially almost move the centre of rugby away from Europe and Southern Hemisphere towards America?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it definitely will. I think, as I said, it'll probably take another couple of years to start drawing out people that are sort of mid-age in their career. I think right now it's probably appealing to guys that are sort of on the back end or moving towards the back end as an option. But I think as the rugby develops and it's seen as a premier competition in terms of quality, you'll start to see even better players at a younger age go out there to develop. Obviously it's going to be a pretty amazing opportunity lifestyle wise, but if you can add the professionalism and an awesome level of rugby as well, then there's no reason why it won't rival everywhere. So I've got no doubt it's going to be quite a big opportunity for a lot of players.
I think the amount of money they have to chuck at that program it's unrivaled as compared to Europe and Southern Hemisphere. So that should, if the stats are true, that should suggest that in 5 years' time, rugby in America should just be unparalleled. Yeah,
exactly. It's a no-brainer, and I know as much as players like to deny it, money talks, and there's a lot of money over there. And if boys are getting offered, double what they are to play here, and they can go and play in a competition that's just as good, then they're going to be on a plane as soon as possible. So it's exciting times ahead for rugby in America. And as I said, the youth program and all the academy systems, they're really trying to build them up now as well. So it'll be cool to get involved in that side of things.
Yeah, I quite like how they sort of have that like American twist where like they got the draft coming in and I guess the academy as well. But I guess another cool thing about moving to the Giltinis is I guess it's LA itself. It's sort of, firstly, the sun is amazing and sort of the climate and everything, but it's another sporting city, isn't it? Sort of like the Lakers and Clippers and sort of the Rams and so on. Are you excited to just get involved with the sport there as well?
Definitely, mate. Like obviously LA was a huge draw card for me personally. Obviously the sporting hub. I've been there a couple of times on holiday, but haven't spent too much time there, but obviously loved it. And I think, obviously I've been involved with a number of meetings now with our coaches and management and a few players as well. And, there's obviously a few things yet to be announced around where we're training and playing and stuff like that. But it's, some exciting announcements to be made. And, we're very lucky to be a part of this club because the owner is, definitely backing it the right way, and he's really sinking his teeth in, and it's going to be one hell of a journey for the boys that are involved. And just for rugby in general in America, it's going to be pretty special.
I think it has been announced that your home stadium will be the Coliseum, which obviously any American football fan will know it's unparalleled stadium. Do you think that it will have the same effect and that they'll manage to pack it out like they do for the LA Rams to be able to?
I mean, it's huge. I've done some looking, but initially, obviously, it's going to have to be a snowball sort of thing. It's they're doing everything they can at the moment to get as many people on board. Obviously, to get it packed out is a big target, and that's something that the owner is not shied away from. And I know speaking to our general manager, that was his one mission that he got told by the owner, you need to back this thing out. So good luck to him, I suppose. But we'll just try and win games, and everyone loves a winning team. So I think they got some pretty exciting things lined up around the entertainment side of things, as you can imagine, American style. So it's going to be pretty interesting, and looking forward to seeing how it goes.
I mean, they present themselves as like a fun team, don't they? Like if you look on their Instagram, like the promotions, I mean, the coaches look great. I mean, thinking about like Stephen Hoyles and so on coming in, and the name itself. I mean, I think sort of as a spectator and as a fan, sort of what you want to watch is like a winning side and sort of a fun place to be. And I think potentially they've got both.
Yeah, and I think it's just that balance between having a good time and working hard. And it's something that's so often got wrong in teams, not for any particular reason, but I think they've got a real opportunity, basically as a startup business, to set the foundations as these are our standards around. Right, we're going to have a good time. We're going to get people involved. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a hell of fun. But one condition is that we have to win. I think once everyone's announced in our team, it's going to be pretty evident that they've gone pretty hard. Oh, sorry, Siri's getting involved. It's going to be pretty hard to deny how hard they've gone at getting this team up and running. So I think first and foremost it's about winning, and we've got some amazing coaches and players that are going to drive a high standard. And then obviously right from the name of the team, which is they're named after a cocktails. It's mad, but it is what it is. It's pretty cool, and they're just doing things their way. And if you enjoy that, get on board, and this is the way it's going to be done. So I'm really looking forward to that, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun as well.
Alrighty guys, it's that time again. Time to pay for the pints.
Today's podcast has been brought to you by our mates over at Team Blazers. Big shout out to them, the great British Blaze company, kidding you out for every match day social. Check them out now.
So on that topic of sort of balancing fun and sport, I want to make a slight segue and talk about the Barbarians, which you were lucky to be a part of. What was that like sort of experience in terms of, I guess, both rugby and also socially?
It's got to be the best thing I've ever done in rugby. It's like, it's so hard to explain. Like I was smiling ear to ear after I got over my hangover. When I got back to Australia, I was smiling ear to ear, like for weeks, telling people I could not stop talking about it. Like, firstly, we were really lucky to get on the tour. It was myself and a couple of other Rebels guys, because there was obviously internationals at the time, and we were sort of the next tier down. So, to get on that tour was amazing. It was a 3-week tour, England, Brazil, Wales. Like, who gets to go to Brazil with the Barbarians for a week? Like, it's just insane. But right from the off, it's everything and anything you can imagine. You rock up, you sit in a room, you crack open a beer, you get your kit, which is obviously, as a player, like the coolest part about being a player growing up. You get your kit, you're like, far out, I got my Barbars kit. You get given your money for the week, and then you just sit around and enjoy a few beers together and get to know each other. And then you're sitting across the room from like people you grow up watching, people you still admire. You got a coach over there that's like one of the best in the world, and just all this history with the club. And then they just have stuff planned every week, minimal rugby stuff. There's maybe 1 or 2 training sessions a week, maybe we probably went to the gym twice in 3 weeks, but just a lot of social stuff, and they just do it the right way. And I remember when I got back and I sort of came to the Rebels, I was speaking with the coaches, and I just said, like, there's got to be something in this, because whilst we did have really good players, we still performed to a level that was basically almost international, with little to no training, based purely on just connections as a group, and creating an atmosphere where everyone can just express themselves. So between myself, Angus and Jonesy, who were there, we sort of sat the coaches down and said, these are the things we did. Obviously, it's quite extreme. You can't do this with the Super Rugby team, but there's no reason why we can't implement some of it, and drive the social side of things. So I reckon it had a huge effect on our Rebel season, and our social side of things. So I just learned so much, and it sort of takes you back to why you love playing rugby, sitting in the change room, having a beer, having a coffee with the boys, and just not worrying about training, not worrying about watching your clips from training. What were your GPS meters? What's your body fat at the moment? That kind of stuff, like, which all has its place right now in the professional era, but it's just peeling everything back to why you love the game. And it was such a special experience.
You got any stories from that couple of weeks, the Barbars?
Just Rory Best, just being the loosest person I've ever come across. absolute legend. Between him and Bustero, just absolutely crushing beers. It was a pretty entertaining week, but no, nothing to. Oh, what do we have? I don't know if you know Henkes van Wyk. He's a hooker, played at the Sunwolves. He's actually going to America now as well. I'm not sure where he's going, but he is as loose as they come. And he was sort of our ringleader and would lead the charge, and just for some reason would never get hungover. Anyway, we went out. We got invited to this golf course. There was a few keen golfers, Scott Britz, myself, Dave Havili, Henkes, and a few other blokes. We got invited to this golf course in Brazil from this guy. I'm trying to cut the story down, but I've got to explain how the golf course fitted in. This guy, he doesn't let anyone play on this course. He tried to build, and he's super rich, obviously. He tried to build this course that was top 100 in the world, but to have a top 100 course, you need to have a certain amount of people go through there and play it and rate it. So the only people that have ever played there are people that rate courses. Like, you won't let pros play there. He doesn't really let famous people there, but he just loves rugby. So Scott Britz got in touch with him, and we managed to book a tee time. So it's on his private property. It's in the top 100 courses in the world. And we went there, and we sort of didn't know what to expect. The guy that owned it was quite old, but his son was a bit of a larrikin, and he got us all on the beers before we teed off. It was like 11 a.m. tee off. Sat down, had brekkie with a few beers. We're all like a bit pissed before we start playing. And then I think it was in a 3-ball. It was myself, Dave Havili, and Henkes. And it was like 6 holes in. Henkes lights up a cigarette, and we're like, because him and the owner were smoking cigars the whole round. And he lights up a cigarette, and then he drives his cart off. We tee off. Drives his cart off, goes for a piss or something, and then puts his cigarette out in his tree, and then like drives off, and we're on the green, we're putting, gets to the next tee, and we're just sort of looking over, and there is like the biggest thing of smoke coming up from this like area, and we're just like, what is going on? And Henkes like gets in his cart, like piss bolts to the tree, and he's like waving us over. We get over there, this tree's like genuinely on fire. So he's like gone back to the clubhouse, got all the staff to come over, and they've got hoses putting out this. He's almost lit this fucking top 100 course on fire. I got some amazing videos of it, but yeah, that was probably the loosest thing that happened in terms of almost ruining a billionaire's golf course.
I'm sure you just carried on playing after that, so
yeah,
completed the 18 holes.
Of course, well, we actually did, yeah.
That's amazing. So I want to sort of move on and sort of talk away from rugby and now talk about sort of like your interests outside. And I know you're sort of interested in this like business, entrepreneurship idea, and you got your own apparel company with a Bald Co. How did that sort of interest start about?
Yeah, I reckon, so the Bald Co stuff sort of came about, I think it was like a year and a half ago now. I've always had an interest in fashion. I've loved sort of men's clothing, sort of doing things a bit different, I suppose, and just enjoying that side of stuff away from the field. And then obviously being bald, I sort of had this idea one day where like, I obviously wear hats. I used to wear hats anyway when I had hair because I just like wearing hats. And then I sort of had this idea when I was thinking like, when I was bald, I was like, does this person know that I'm bald, or they think I'm wearing a hat because I'm bald? Like, how would they know if I'm bald if I'm wearing a hat, sort of thing? I don't want people to think I'm wearing it because I'm bald, because I don't give a fuck. So I was like, right, I'm just going to make a few hats, put bald on it, so they know that I'm bald, but I'm just wearing a hat because I want to wear a hat. And it sort of just started off like that. And I was like, I got in touch with a few mates that had some businesses as well, and I got in touch with the manufacturer. And then we just started making some really basic stuff. And then it's sort of just grown from there. It's never something that I started to, make heaps of money or like dive fully into after rugby. It's just something that I've got on the side that is a bit of fun. I'm learning a lot about sort of online business, the do's and don'ts. And we had some pretty cool ideas around. Sorry, one of my mates sort of bought into the business, and he's doing the marketing side of things moving forward. But we had some cool ideas around doing some stuff for summer, but with COVID, our manufacturing place got shut down, so we've just found a new one. And yeah, it's a cool journey. Like, it's something that I'm enjoying, sort of in the men's fashion space, and just something ticking me along outside rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have sort of like, is this completely like, do you have like one brand or something that you're sort of look and think, all right, that's really cool, or is it completely like just do what you want to do?
No, it sort of changes a bit. Like I went through a phase a couple of years ago where I actually, as weird as it sounds, enjoyed like really dressing up, like wearing suits, shirts, chinos, nice shoes, that kind of stuff. But I sort of just got out of that phase and felt really uncomfortable around that kind of stuff, and it just didn't really feel like me. So I sort of, the last couple of years have turned more to like streetwear and sort of oversized, real casual stuff. I think there's a I don't know if you know him. There's a designer called Jerry Lorenzo, who's an American designer. He's got a label called Fear of God, and his stuff is just like the top shelf of men's fashion, in my opinion. So like he's someone that I follow quite closely. And then just all the vintage stuff, like it's obviously pretty hot right now. Like everyone's sort of jumping on the train, and I was probably one of those people, to be honest. But that side of things, I really enjoy the vintage stuff, and sort of exploring like different shirts that were one-offs from whatever year it was, and sort of looking into that side of things.
Absolutely. It's sort of like when you go into like this idea or business, when you're only doing it just because you're interested in whatever, it's awesome because it's like undefined, it's unscripted, you can do whatever you want, you don't have any like pressure or anything. So I think that's really cool. So another thing, so like looking through your Instagram, is that I guess over lockdown perhaps, like you got really into like meditation, wasn't it, and sort of breathing techniques and so on. How did that sort of start about?
I have. Like it's been awesome. It's been something that I probably never would have started given what this year's been. But Matt Phillip, who's a real close friend of mine, I lived with him for three years before the Force and the Rebels for a couple of years. But he's really big into that stuff, the mental side of things, and something I actually used to pay him out about when I first lived with him. And then when it all started, I started just trying to meditate 5 minutes every day, just see what it's about, and definitely struggled at the start because it's such a weird thing, especially for an active person. And especially just for like men in general who are playing sport, it's to sit down and spend 10 minutes on your own doing absolutely nothing is such a foreign thing to do. But it's become something now that I probably wouldn't go a day without it unless I was traveling or had something on. So I think I'm on like 220 days almost straight, missed a few in between, but it's just been something cool that it's now a time in my morning that no one else can take away from me. I just sit somewhere where I can't be disturbed, and just 10 minutes to just chill and breathe. And it's a consistent thing, and no matter where I am in the world, that I can do, and just provides me a bit of routine.
Do you think it positively impacts your game as well as a rugby player? Do many other rugby players that you know sort of in your squads actually go out of their way to meditate and sort of make it a part of their routines?
I think a lot of players do. Yeah, I've had. I don't think it's probably shown as much. Actually, I don't think anyone really shows it besides me, and that's part of the reason why I do show it, is to sort of show people that it is actually quite normal for athletes to do this kind of thing. I have boys come up to me weekly saying that like they've been doing it for a while, or this is the app they use, and this is the ones they've been following, and it's probably the number one thing that people get in touch with me about on social media is sort of that side of things and the routine side of things. So it's definitely something people are interested in. I don't know if it's a bit of a taboo subject still, but for me personally, it's definitely grown my game. It's probably not a tangible thing that I can say it's grown my game for X reason, but in terms of the way I feel and the way I approach each week, it's definitely more structured, and that morning 10 minutes definitely sort of drives that side of things.
And it puts you in like a mindset where you're thinking, right, I'm dedicated to this thing, and I'm going to put minutes into it and hours in the end of the week. But yeah. Well, Billy, thank you very much for jumping on our podcast. I think that's all that we got for today, but really fascinating story hearing about your time where pretty much everywhere, every continent, and off to LA next, which should be absolutely awesome. And we'll for sure follow you there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
No worries.
Come on.